Out here, you're either predator or you're prey.
The film opens in Italy, where an American family, the Daltons, Ben, Louise, and their 11-year-old daughter Agnes, are vacationing at a resort. Agnes, though 11, still relies on a stuffed rabbit named Hoppy for emotional support. Ben and Louise struggle to fully enjoy their time, as the only people they interact with are a Danish couple they find uninteresting. When Agnes loses Hoppy, she becomes distraught. The rabbit is found by a British couple, the Felts, Patty and Sierra, who are traveling with their mute son, Ant. The Felts quickly charm the Daltons, and the two families end up having lunch together. During their meal, Ben tells Patty that his family recently moved to London for his job, while Louise gave up her own career for the move. Patty, in turn, invites the Daltons to visit his and Sierra's country estate. The Daltons eventually return to London, where Ben confides in Louise about his disappointment over not securing a deal at work that he had been hoping for. He also voices concerns about Agnes's development and her continued reliance on a doll. They discover a postcard from Patty and Sierra, again inviting them to visit. Although Louise initially thinks spending time with people they barely know is risky, both she and Ben warm to the idea. The next day, the Daltons arrive at the Felts estate just in time for dinner. Patty proudly presents a goose he prepared and offers some to Louise, despite her previously telling him and Sierra that she's a vegetarian. Louise, trying to be polite, takes a bite but spits it out when they aren't looking. Later, when Ben goes to throw out some trash, Ant silently follows him and attempts to show that his tongue has been cut out. Meanwhile, the adults continue to socialize while Ant and Agnes sleep in the same room. Louise hears Ant wailing in his sleep, but Patty and Sierra reassure her that he eventually settles down, which he does. The next day, both families go hiking in the woods. Agnes tries to make a swing and Patty forcibly moves Ant to make room for Agnes. Afterwards, at Patty's suggestion, everyone goes into the nearby lake because Louise complained of neck pain. Louise begins to express discomfort towards Ben, but Sierra invites her to have dinner with her and Patty at a nearby restaurant while Ant's babysitter Mudgett looks after him and Agnes. At dinner, Patty and Sierra talk about their active sex lives, while Louise casually mentions that she and Ben don't have as much sex these days, making Ben uncomfortable. Patty and Sierra then joke with them by pretending to have oral sex under the table. Meanwhile, Ant takes Agnes to a bedroom, where he shows off a collection of watches in a drawer. One of them has a Danish inscription underneath and the name of another man. Ant tries to keep Agnes quiet so Mudgett won't find them, as they tricked him into playing hide and seek. Ant also shows Agnes his upper body, which is covered in bruises and scars. Later, before going to bed, Ben expresses his irritation at what Louise told Patty and Sierra, adding that he has never gotten over seeing another man's penis on her phone. They discuss the issue and reconcile with a hug, unaware that Patty is spying on them. That night, Louise wakes up and goes to check on Agnes in the kids' room, only to find that both Agnes and Ant are missing. She frantically searches the house until she discovers Agnes asleep in bed next to Sierra. Louise quietly takes her daughter and returns to her own room. The next morning, Louise tells Ben that finding Agnes in Patty and Sierra's room was the final straw, and insists they need to leave immediately. The Daltons attempt to sneak out before Patty and Sierra wake up, but while on the road, Agnes begins to panic because they left Hoppy behind. Ben tries to convince her to let it go, but she kicks his seat in frustration, nearly causing them to swerve into a truck. Reluctantly, Ben turns the car around to retrieve the doll. When they arrive back at the house, Patty and Sierra are already awake and seem offended that Ben and Louise tried to leave without saying goodbye. Louise explains that she was uncomfortable with what she saw the previous night, to which Sierra apologizes, explaining that she has a strong maternal instinct because they once had a daughter named Mary, whom they lost. Feeling sympathy, the Daltons apologize for trying to leave abruptly. Later, Patty takes Ben out to go fox hunting, while Louise stays back with Sierra and the kids. Ant tries to write a message to Agnes, but it's in Danish, so she can't understand it. Before Sierra notices, Ant eats the note. After Ben fails to shoot a fox, Patty takes him to a quiet, open space where they let out primal, cathartic screams. The families gather for lunch, but tensions rise when Sierra criticizes Agnes's eating habits, upsetting Louise. Although Sierra apologizes, Patty suggests that Louise should apologize as well. Later, Agnes and Ant perform a dance they've been practicing to Cotton-Eyed Joe, but Patty harshly criticizes Ant's dancing, frightening Agnes. While Patty naps, Ant sneaks his keys from him and leads Agnes to a barn with a hidden basement. Inside, Ant shows her a book filled with pictures of other families Patty and Sierra have encountered. Each photo features the couple with an unhappy child, followed by another couple with their own child. With each new family, the child from the previous family is seen in the next picture. Ant then motions to Agnes that Patty and Sierra cut out his tongue and plan to make Agnes their next child after killing her parents, just as they did with his. Agnes takes photos of the evidence on her phone and goes to show them to Louise. Meanwhile, Patty wakes up and catches Ant trying to return the keys, noticing the basement latch left ajar. After Ben and Louise learn the truth, they try to remain calm and find an excuse to leave. They tell Patty and Sierra that Agnes has just gotten her first period as a reason to depart. However, as they are about to leave, they notice they have a flat tire. Patty helps change it, but then Agnes realizes Hoppy is missing again. Patty points out that the doll is in the gutters, so Ben uses a ladder to retrieve it. Though Hoppy is shredded, Agnes insists they leave. They try to get Ant to open the gate so he can escape with them, but Patty unlocks it with his keys instead. As they begin to drive away, Agnes sees Patty throwing Ant into the lake. Ben rushes to save him while Louise tries to drive off with Agnes, but Patty closes the gate, trapping them. Ben rescues Ant, but Patty and Sierra hold Louise and Agnes at gunpoint. Patty and Sierra then force the Daltons to hand over their money, and Patty attempts to knock Agnes out with ketamine. Louise, however, uses a hidden box cutter to slash Patty's face and then fights Sierra for the rifle. Meanwhile, Ben frees himself, Agnes, and Ant, and they make a run for it. At that moment, Patty and Sierra's accomplice, Mike, arrives and starts shooting at the family, forcing them to flee back to the house and hide. The villains begin hunting the family as Ben and Louise desperately try to keep the kids hidden, barricading themselves in a bedroom. Ben attempts to use one of Patty's liquor bottles to set the barn on fire, hoping to attract attention, but he misses and accidentally drops the bottle onto Patty's car. Mike fires at them and tries to force his way inside. Ben fights back with a hammer, but Mike nearly overpowers him, driving Ben's head onto broken glass. Just in time, Louise grabs the hammer and drives it into Mike's head, killing him. When Patty attacks, Louise sprays drain cleaner in his face, severely burning him until Sierra intervenes to help him. The family attempts to escape via the roof, using a ladder to climb down. Sierra catches up to them, but Louise strikes her over the head, causing Sierra to fall off the roof to her death, knocking down the ladder in the process. Ben climbs down, injuring his leg, but manages to set the ladder back up for Louise, Agnes, and Ant. Just then, Patty finds them and holds Agnes at gunpoint, declaring that he will take her now that Sierra is dead and no one is left to care for him. He threatens to kill her parents, but Agnes stabs him in the abdomen with a ketamine needle, incapacitating him. Before leaving, Ant grabs a large brick. Patty, in his last moments, expresses pride in the boy, only for Ant to smash his skull with the brick in a fit of rage. Ben and Louise then gather Ant and Agnes into Mike's car and drive away from the estate for good. As they leave, Agnes gives Hoppy to Ant to comfort him. So that's the end of our movie. If you've come this far, make sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe my channel. See you later.